Hi everyone, welcome to today's session on preparing details. Today we'll be going through detailing approaches in Revit, drafting views versus callouts, typical and non-typical details and how to approach those. Detail components will be thrown into the mix, as well as detail line work. And also, as we're going through, we'll be assembling a couple of details as practical. Okay, first off, let's talk a little bit about the detailing approach in Revit. So I'm just going to open up a 3D view here of this project, and we're going to have a bit of a squiz at this model and to understand how far do you go with modeling versus detailing. So here we have a garage which is made up of a blockwork with a timber cladding. If I take this section box and I bring it through and into the building here, and we zoom in, we can see the type of level of detail that we go to for our model. You can see we've got our footing, which is generally modeled, our floor, again, just massed in. We've got a blockwork wall with a couple of layers on it, and we've got a timber cladding. Now, there's no aluminium strips, there's no battens that have been modeled in. It's just all allowances for those. And the same goes for the roofing. We've just got a generic zone for our structural elements, as well as our roofing profile metal on the surface there. What that means is that the model doesn't become too overcomplicated. The general approach that we recommend for detailing versus modeling is that anything that would be seen in about 1 to 50, almost down to 1 to 20 in some circumstances, should be or can be modeled. Anything closer than that, you tend to go into 2D world so that you're not overly modeling things for your project, which actually ends up taking a lot of time and becoming largely unnecessary. Okay, now that we've got sort of an understanding of the delineation, let's go through and have a look at drafting views and callouts. So callouts are portions of the building that are represented at a larger scale to show detail and construction methodology. Callouts are best used for non-typical details. Drafting views, on the other hand, are drawings unassociated with the building model directly. The view is best for detailing where the model is not needed for callouts or for general diagrams. Drafting views are best used for typical details. Let's jump into a section here, and we'll start off by doing a non-typical detail. Okay. Okay, so you can see the level of detail that we've got in this model. It's very general. So to create a call out, we'll go up to view. We'll pick call out. And then importantly, you'll pick the type of call out that you'd like to create. So is this for our planning application, our project repository, or is this a detailed section? And of course, it's a detailed section that we're preparing. And we're going to be having a look at this particular wall here. Now, this is very unique to this project. It's got a formal entry pond, which is adjacent to a blockwork wall. And that's going to require some very custom detailing. Okay, so I've just created that detail there. And this is what it looks like. Okay, so that's created our blown up section wall detail there. Now, of course, we need to set the scale. I think we're going to go with 1 to 10 on this one. So I'll change that down below, 1 to 10. Now, by no means is this now complete. There's obviously a lot more to go into this detail, but it does provide the framework for you to do your detailing. So in order to do so, as I mentioned, all details should be 2D in their entirety. We advise against what's called hybrid details. Hybrid details meaning a combination of, say, using 3D elements and 2D elements. The reasons being are that if someone was to delete, or edit, or change this floor or this element or this wall, you end up losing portions of your detail. Details, when they're in 2D in their entirety, are portable between projects. It's also really important. And the graphic representation of the 3D elements just isn't up to scratch for preparing details if you're relying on 3D elements in their entirety. Okay, so in order to layer this up, what we do is we go over to the properties palette and we change the display of the model to halftone. And that makes all model elements halftone, and then we can start to add our elements. So I'm just going to close off a few things here, and because we are going to be pinching from another detail that I've prepared earlier. But let's just go through and start placing a few items here. We might start off with the concrete slab. Now for the concrete slab, with the footing, we're going to be placing in a filled region. So we go to Annotate, Filled Region, and we just sketch around the perimeter of what we've got there, or we can obviously make it a little bit more detailed. Now I've just sketched in a shape there. At the moment, we've used invisible lines, but you will be wanting to use a series of detail lines that are specific for detailing. So if I go and I select that line, I can change it to concrete, and that's predefined in my project for display in details. I'll click, first we'll change our filled region, of course, to concrete, and we'll click tick. And now that's drawn in a 2D concrete hatch, which I can customize as I will. Now we use the filled region because it's the most nimble of the tools to be able to shape for our detailing. All right, next up, we might look at adding some layers here. So let's see, let's go with, we've got a block work here. So let's go with a repeating detail. These will be up again in our Annotate tab. We'll find repeating detail component. And you may need to load them in, but we've got things like a 90 mil block work here. And I'm going to just click and draw that up all the way to the top of my wall. I've already used block dimensions, so it's matching up nicely. Okay, let's layer it up. What do we need next? We might need some battens. Okay, so let's go and have a look at what we've got in our sample detail. Okay, we've just used a timber batten here, so timber stud 35 by 70. So we'll go to our detail component, or we can type in DC, timber, stud, 35 by 70. Okay, there it is there. Place it where you need it. We can use Align Tools, AL. Bring it into position. I'm just checking my detail that I've prepared earlier. And I know that I've looked up the manufacturer's installation instructions, and they've mentioned that these need to be at 450 centers. So I'll copy that up, 450, etc. You may even array that. Okay. Next, we've got a cladding, timber cladding. You can use any of the 2D components. There's repeating detail type components. For this, I'm going to use a just a simple timber panel. So DC for detail component. Okay, what have we got here? Timber cladding, timber, 2D. Let's go with the 26 mil. And we'll just drop that in, and that just can be stretched up as required. Now that can actually go all the way to the top here. Align that to there. Go through, add the additional elements. We've got screws, detail component, screw. Pop those in as required. The bimco screws can be stretched and resized. And we've got a bolt here even. And I'm just going to actually just copy this one. Now, one thing to note is the draw order of elements. As you're placing these, sometimes they are in the wrong order. So if I send that to the back or to the front, you can see that this actually has an opaque region on it. You can get around that by selecting elements and changing their draw order from here. So we can either bring it forward or send it backwards. So let's go with send to back. All right, I'm going to do a little bit of cheating here, and I'm going to copy a bunch of these over so that we can expedite this process. So let's go and we'll take a bunch of notes and some of these elements, and I'm going to do Control C, and I'm just going to go back to my view and we do paste to view, PV. I think they've all disappeared outside my crop annotation crop. There they are now. All right, that's coming together. So you've got a couple of double ups. But yeah, we can fix those. Moving to the inside, you know, we might have some timber studs or metal studs. So for this, again, just detail components, steel stud. We can look for our 2D. Now, if you do see elevation, LF, it means that it's the element in elevation, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. So we're going to go with 64 mil metal studs here. Use the align tool, pop that in, detail component, steel stud. And in this case, I'm actually going to use the elevation version of this, which is just a rectangle really. And it's the elevation because it's not the cut representation of the element. And we'll send that one to the back. Continue to layer that up. Again, I'm just going to cheat here, and we're going to pinch a bunch of notes from and elements from my other details. So Control C. And then I'll just show you how this works. Paste, align to current view. All right, we've got a shadow line detail here, skirting. We've got a plasterboard lining. We've started to note it up. And now we do need to add in our underlay elements, our timber flooring and underlay. So we might just grab those. They're just done as filled regions. So not everything does have to be a detail component. Some things you will just do as a filled region as available. Here we've just got a hardwood hatch, and here we've just got a crosshatch, diagonal crosshatch. All right, as you move through, your detail will come together. When you're completed, basically what you do is you go to the display model feature and you turn off halftone to do not display, and you're left with your resulting detail there. Okay, you can always turn that back on if you need to have a look at your detail. All right, so finally, we're going to go through and pick and document our parapet here. I'm going to use Revit to pick detail elements, and I'm going to copy all of these detail elements here and paste them over to here. Again, we're just shortcutting for today's exercise. All right. Probably close this off now. Now I've added in a couple of break lines. Now these break lines are detail components which are stretchable. They basically mask out a portion of the other detail elements. Now, obviously this detail is a little bit too tall to be placed on a sheet. We've got a whole lot of nothing in the middle. So we will want to break that. And to break that, we can select our crop region and click this horizontal view break button here, which will then break it into portions, which we can then stretch as desired. And we can move them closer to each other using this little move view region option, this little up down arrow. So we'll bring that down here and close. And that's looking pretty good. Then we'll turn off our crop and we're left with our detail. Okay, so that's a non-typical detail and the approach. What happens when you would like to create a typical detail? So as we know, these are details that aren't necessarily about particular junctions in your project, but may occur again and again throughout your project. To do those, as we mentioned, we use a drafting view. To create a new drafting view, go to View, Drafting View, set your scale, name your drafting view, and then you just start drawing. And you can draw using our filled regions. Again, that might just be a concrete hatch. We want to edit that. Some of the lines you may leave as invisible, others you may not. Let's just say we're doing a threshold with some pedestal pavings. So we'll go detail component. We've already loaded these in, so we can bring those in. Scale's a bit off here. And we'll copy that over. Detail component. We'll put in a couple of pavers. Like so. That worked out pretty well. And some of these also have the ability to be offset. We can edit that. Put in a windowsill. There might be something here. I'm moving quite quick here, guys. Let's go 100 mil, 100 mil, and return. Slice that, trim that. Okay, like so. And then obviously you want to get that all into position as you want it. And again, just keep layering it up. Now, if you find that there's a line type that you need that doesn't exist, we do have a guide for you in our knowledge base for detailing line types. So if you head into detailing line work within our knowledge base, you can run a quick search here. So let's just do a search in this page for membrane, because we want to put in some sort of waterproofing membrane here. Okay, now here it is here. This is the suggested subcategory, the line weight, the color, the pattern, and what application it is. So what you want to do is you want to copy that text in its entirety. Want to go into our line patterns, our line styles, which is under Manage, Additional Settings, Line Styles. And this is where you can create additional detailing line work. So we're going to go New, Waterproofing Membrane. And we're going to match all the settings that are in this table to black dash tight, to black dash tight. Okay, that just means we've got consistency between our projects. That's created a new line type. Whilst you're in here, we can review our concrete. You know, maybe we want to be a little bit thicker for our project. We can change that here by just changing it to, say, a 6. Watch what happens. See, that just got a little bit thicker. Now, that's a global change. That would have changed it for all of my details, including this one here. So just be wary of what you're doing when you're changing those. Now, I'm just going to draw in my membrane layer. That'll just be some detail lines. So we can do that by going to Annotate, Detail Line, and picking the new line type that we created. And in this case, we're just going to run something through here and up here. And maybe 1 to 5 might suit this better. It's looking a bit better. Note it up. And when you're done, it should look something a little bit like this. So just made up of lots of different components. Now that's a typical detail. It doesn't actually exist anywhere in particular. Now to refer to that detail, what you can do is you can actually create a call out and point to it. So let's go into a section and do that. Okay, we want to be in section C. All right, here's a little area here that we might have this detail. Let's go and put a call out in. Call out. We're just going to do a larger wall call out first. We'll go into that call out by double clicking it. And we're going to do another call out of this area here. And this is going to be called up as our typical. So this call out here might be 1 to 20 that we're in. Again, you just layer it up. Then you can do another call out. Now don't forget to pick what type of call out it is, or you can reference other view here. So this is a section detail. I'm going to reference another view and I'm going to look for my threshold. Detail. And that's what I'm going to be pointing to. We'll place in our call out. And now this is actually going to point to, if I double click it, that detail, which we prepared earlier. Finally, I'm just going to show you quickly how to bring in details from other files. Now, this is one of the benefits of doing your details in 2D, in drafting views in particular. You may have a repository file where you store these details. You may even use kinship. But to bring in details from another file, you can go to Insert, Insert from File, Insert Views from File, navigate to the file location, here's our detail repository, click Open, and from this dialog, you can actually browse all the drafting views that are inside that file, and you can copy them into your project. Show drafting views only, pick the details or drafting views that you'd like. I'm going to take this one, click OK. That will then bring it into our project, which is already named and added to our project and ready for use.